Hey there, Citizens Pal here, and welcome back. We're talking ships. We're going to be doing a big rundown, probably 2 episodes. We're going to break this up into 2 videos. But with CitizenCon coming up next Saturday, it'll probably be 6 days from when this video goes live, or maybe even 5 days from when this video goes live. There's going to be a lot of rare, unique ships, limited number ships on sale, and I wanted to kind of just go through and talk about the ships that I would recommend maybe considering. Now, I'm not telling you to spend any money at all. This is just, if you've already decided you're going to spend money and you're looking for opinions on what ships to get or whatever, this is just my opinions on what ships I would consider getting. If you're new to the game, you're just getting here, keep in mind none of this is going to be pertaining to you. What you want to do is you want to go over here to the pledge store, game packages, and all that you need to spend if you want to take part. If you only want the multiplayer, the Star Citizen side of things, it's $45 for either this Aurora MR or the Mustang Alpha. That's your starter pack, or $65 if you want Squadron 42 also, which will be the single player stuff included. So either of those, that's all you need. This is going to be people more looking to spend more than that. And it's just a fun chance to talk about ships I would recommend, I'm into, and so on. And if you disagree with this, let's have at it in the comments down below. You know, everyone's got their personal preferences. Me personally, I lean for function over form. I aim for more well-rounded with no major weaknesses over ships that maybe have one really good pro, but then some big negatives to it. That's kind of more where I like to go. And yeah, we're going to, like I said, we're going to split this up. What I figured is it looks like halfway is about here, the Endeavor. So this will cover up to the Glaive. And then the next episode we'll pick up with the Endeavor on the rest of the way. Before we did go, I did want to give, I think, 5 or 6 ships that I do recommend. Like, these are kind of the ones that jump out to me as quote unquote must-haves. Not necessarily must-haves with cash, but in-game later on. The last one is more of an organization must-have, which will tell a lot of people what it is. But yeah, let's start off with the Arrow. The Arrow came onto the scene, was it last year or was it 2 years ago now? I don't remember when this exactly showed up. Do we have dates? No. The Arrow, in my opinion, right now is the best straight-up dogfighter in-game. Doesn't mean it wins all of them, but it has the speed, it has the maneuverability, it's got good weapon loadouts, there's a lot of different possibilities for loadouts, reasonable amount of missiles and everything. Yeah, you got to be careful when you run against something heavier like, say, a Saber or a Super Hornet or even a Vanguard, as it's going to take you a little time to wear them down, and if they hit you, they're going to win that. But you should have the evasiveness to really go at just about anything. The Arrow, at its entry-level cost of, I think, $75 or $70 for the ship outright, or you can cross-chassis upgrade to it for like $40 beyond the base game. It's a joy to fly. It's a great ship. The Arrow's, in my opinion, is a must-have overall. After the Arrow, the next one above that would be the Cutlass. The Cutlass Black is tried and true. Everyone knows it. I feel some people don't like its aesthetic, which is completely understandable. It's very much a Drake ship. But if I could only have one ship in game, like my account had one ship and that was it, it would be the Cutlass. It does everything reasonably well. Its only real negative is it's somewhat light, meaning it can get destroyed fairly easily. It doesn't have much tank ability, but you can run cargo, you can do all kinds of different missions with it and everything. Literally the only thing in game right now you can't do with it is mine, and that's true of every other ship with the exception of the Prospector. So the Cutlass is tried and true. It can even run it like a small drop ship. You can get a Tumbril Cyclone into the back of it. It's a tight fit, but you can fit a Cyclone, you can fit some Dragonflies and stuff, some friends in the back. Just a great ship overall. After that, this one's still in concept, so it's a little bit more potential. The Corsair. So I'm looking for a ship that appeals to me more than the Connies do. The Constellation series don't really do it for me. We'll discuss that when we get to them in particular. The Corsair is basically Drake's version of that size, that class of ship. Now, they label it here as exploration, but that's a little deceiving. If we open up the weaponry, you're going to see here there's some significant firepower on this thing. And most of this is all controlled by the pilot. This is going to give this thing some real heavy punching power against structures and stuff. The one question that's going to be around this ship, I think, is going to be how tanky is it going to be? Is it going to be like the Cutlass, where it's not very tanky at all? Is it going to be a little bit more? We're not really sure. They've come out and said they think it's going to be more tanky, and that weakness of the Cutlass was kind of just a one-off for that ship. but we will see. It's definitely one to keep an eye on. Another slight one sort of along this line would be the Star Runner. This is another concept one that's also in that same size as the Connies. This one has other potential, whereas the Corsair is going to be more about firepower. This is going to be more about speed, maneuverability, evasion, and then there's also some data capabilities in here. You're going to be able to run information data with it. This one looks really cool aesthetically. I like the design of this one the most visually, but I think the Corsair wins out a little bit more in terms of utility overall. But we'll have to see when these come in. Hopefully both these ships end up in before the end of 2020. That would be awesome. So those are those guys. Next up, community favorite, the Carrack. This one should be in by the end of December. They're talking this is going to be dropping in 3.8. So this is, by default, it's considered an exploration ship, but it brings a lot of utility about it that many others don't. It has a decent amount of cargo capacity. It's got med bays in it, so eventually people will be able to respawn in it, or that's at least the way we understand it. You'll be able to respawn people in it, recover them, save them with that. Fair number of beds. You've got really good sensor system for scanning down like jump points and stuff. So I think in theory this ship could also be used as like a general command and control ship for a combat situation. This one, yeah, we're super looking forward to it. Jack of all trades, kind of master of none, well-designed, well, looks to be a well-designed ship. We will hopefully see a whole lot of it actually at CitizenCon. This, I think there's a fair chance this could be one of the mainstay ships that they run through CitizenCon because it should be almost complete at this point. Lastly, is going to be the one that's way out of the price range for pretty much everybody, myself included. But this would be for organizations that want to chip in together and have like a headquarters ship, a master ship, and that'd be the Kraken. It's going to be far more obtainable and usable than, say, the Bengal Carrier, and it's going to be really good for bringing in fighters, loading, unloading them, rearming them. It's going to have medical bays, so respawns and stuff, lots of places for people to log out. This will be a good like mid-sized organization, an org that has generally like 5 to 8 people online most nights, and then on special nights 20 to 25 people. The Kraken is going to be kind of, I think, the centerpiece of a lot of organizations, but it is expensive. I think it's like $1,300. So buying one with cash, probably not the best move, but super interested in this ship. I have high hopes for it. Okay, now that we're 10 minutes in, we can go back and go through the first 100 or so ships that we need to cover. The Auroras, not a huge amount to say here. They're a basic entry-level ship. They're like one of the first ships. They did receive a minor buff in 3.7 with the addition of size 1 gimbals that allow the size 1 weapons to be gimbaled onto them, making them a lot more usable. In fact, when we get to it, I recommend these over the Mustang. They are slow. You definitely feel the sluggishness of them. The Mustang feels better to fly, but I find that the ability to carry cargo in and out of this entry hatchway makes the Aurora slightly better than the Mustangs. But these are just entry-level ships. There's not a whole lot there. The 300 series. Keep in mind, these are outdated, these models. The 300 series just went through a rework and everything. They're now quite good. They're very usable. They're great everyday fighters, not fighters, but everyday multi-role ships. You can run a little bit of cargo, but you're not going to make much money running cargo. But it's more of, this guy needs something. I can throw it in here and get it over there, real quick type thing. Don't buy it as a hauler. But they're fun to fly. They're well-rounded. They got great interiors. They got good cockpits. The only real problem with these is it's just they're in a very saturated section of the market, price-wise, for performance-wise and everything. So there's other ships that I'd rather have in this area, like the Cutlass or the Arrow or the Super Hornet. Well, the Super Hornet's more expensive. But there's a lot of other ships in this area. The Hornets. The Hornets are very much like the 300s. You give up the interior for a more combat role. Now, unlike the Super Hornet, though, this guy right here, the F7C and the F7CM, the Super Hornet and the Super Hornet Heartseeker, the base Hornets, they lack survivability, in my opinion. The Super Hornet has a lot of tankability towards it. A lot for a light fighter. that the regular Hornets don't seem to have. Now, they can mostly match the Super Hornets' firepower, but they feel lackluster. The interesting ones could be the Hornet Ghost and the Hornet Tracker, depending on how these mechanics implement in, and having like a base one and then you swap out that center module or whatever could give you some utility. But again, with what they are, I would take an Arrow over any of the base Hornets. The Super Hornet, on the other hand, you can't go wrong with it. If you want to have one of the higher end fighters in game, basically it's going to be the Saber or the Super Hornet. There's some others to talk about later on now, but these kinds of are the big dogs within it, the tried and true old ones. Super Hornet's solid. It's $170, $175, $165, somewhere in there. So that does price it out of a lot of people's ranges. You could basically buy 2 arrows for this, but yeah, a lot of weapon customization, a huge amount of hard points. Everything gimbals nicely. So with the gimbal assist now, you can really put a lot of rounds down range and on target. The Super Hornet's, it's good. It's a good ship. The Connies. I've already implied that I'm not a big fan of these ships. Now, that doesn't mean there's anything particularly wrong with them. I find that for their size, there's not a whole lot of usable space within them. There's a lot of it is just given up to geometry for the engines and the footprint and everything, and there's not a whole lot of living quarters and everything. If you like them, I completely understand. They are well-rounded ships. The pilots have some fairly good M4, size 4 weapons. No, I think those are size 6 weapons. Yeah, you have 4 size 6s, which means that they punch hard before you add in the turrets. They don't do anything for me. I wish it was the other way around. But for a ship this big, I feel there should be more living quarters, more living something, some type of med bay or something. And its footprint doesn't match what it can do, I find. And then aesthetically, it's okay. It's just not my thing. And yeah, freelancers. So I've talked already a lot about the Cutlass Black and how I really like that thing. The freelancers, if you're looking for a general purpose ship where you're leaning away from combat and more towards trade, cargo running, that's where the freelancers come in. The base freelancer is literally only $10 more than a Cutlass Black, and it triples its cargo capacity. Do we see this? These numbers might not be accurate. So cargo capacity of 66. Okay, so it doesn't triple it. Cargo capacity of 46. But it increases its cargo capacity. It's more user friendly. The thing with the freelancers is if you do get into a fight, well, if you're the better pilot, you have a good chance because you have some significant firepower. I think these are 4 size 4s. Well, there's 2 here and then 2 on the other side. So you can punch really hard with the freelancer. But you're not the best at turning and rotating. So if a target gets the drop on you from behind and they're fairly competent, they can probably stay behind you and not even ever let you get the chance to get these guns on target against them. So that's kind of the trade-off. If there was one, it'd be the Freelancer Max, which has the massive cargo capacity of 122, so double that of the base model. The Freelancer Max can run a lot of cargo. That is the one Freelancer I do have. And it's for exactly that. This is my cargo ship. I don't need anything more than this. For me, personally, I'm not looking to run a whole lot of cargo. It'll be, okay, I need some quick money. I'll do this, but I'm not going to be filling up a Caterpillar or something more. That's why I have this one. The missile boat one, as I was just saying, this ship doesn't feel all that maneuverable. It doesn't feel all that, you have trouble. So making it into a military variant loaded out with missiles doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. If you do want to just fire off like 60 missiles at a time, okay, yeah, this thing will work, but yeah, not really my thing. And then exploration-wise, there are more interesting exploration ships out there, primarily the Carrack. For that reason, I'm not really interested in the Dur. Cutlass, we've already covered it. When the red and blues come online, we should get a little bit more added utility to them. One's police. It's not interdiction. I don't know why they call it an interdiction. The other one's medical. But yeah, the Cutlasses, they're just tried and true. They're great ships. Can't go wrong. The Avenger series. These got a rework. Was it last year? The year before? They're pretty much exactly like the 300 series. They're good, solid, everyday ships that you can do pretty much anything in. They're just at that price point where there's a lot of other stuff that is more interesting in my opinion. You do get the Warlock. Warlock variant is a possibility, which has interdiction. And then there's the Stalker, which I believe has the jail cells in it for bounty hunting later on. But yeah, it's hard to overly recommend these compared to something else. I guess if you want to be able to run like 20 cargo, let's see, which one has, some of them have cargo, 8 cargo, not even close to 20, 8 cargo, plus have a bed. They're okay. They're fine. Gladiator, pass. Just pass on this one. This ship needs to be relooked at. This was the original bomber, and they used it to test out the torpedo systems and everything. But it gives up a lot to deliver, I think, 2 torpedoes. Let's see, does it say here? So those are missiles, 5 ASM. It's not 5. I'm not sure how many torpedoes. They might not be listed there. It gives up a lot for what it brings, and it's just, there's a reason no one talks, and you probably haven't seen this ship in game in a long time, is it's lacking a lot. And there's supposed to be a turret there, or there is a turret there that someone else gets up into. Yeah. M50. It's probably one of the 2 best racing ships in game. This and the Misk Razor are kind of your racing ship go-tos. If you're interested in racing, sure, it's a fast ship that can race. You could also probably use it for quite good harassment. If you want to just piss people off, you're going to be hard to kill just because of your speed and your maneuverability and your profile. You're not going to really kill anything too much. You don't have much armament. You don't get too many hard points. But yeah, you can be annoying. The Starfarers. Not for me, but I think organizations are going to be happy to have these. Once they start expanding out the solar system, we start getting longer jumps, longer travels and stuff. People need fuel. Once we start getting into uncharted areas, having a ship that can go off, scoop up a bunch of fuel, process it, bring it back, and keep the rest of the fleet going is going to be highly desirable. It's not the role I'm looking to take on, so for that reason, I'm not really interested in the Starfarers. But if you have one of these, there'll be people that'll be happy to have you in your organization, I feel. Caterpillars. If there was one, like if you're a person playing solo and your main goal is you want to run cargo, the Caterpillar would probably be the one I recommend. It's got a good cargo capacity. It's got like 5 times that of the Freelancer Max. Where is it? Cargo capacity 576 compared to the Max had 122. So not quite 5 times, a little under 5 times. It's going to have some additional interesting utility. You got some tractor beams on the side so you can move cargo in that's been floating around in outer space. Eventually, you're supposed to be able to detach the pilot module and fly that around separately, basically leaving the base module, so you could have like 2 or 3 bases, and while one's being loaded, unloaded, you fly the pilot module to the other one, run that cargo, go back and get the first one now that it's loaded or whatever, fly that while the second one's being unloaded. And you can kind of do this and get some trade going on with it. There's going to be some interestingness there. They also talked, I don't know if this is still going to happen, that you got like these 4 front cargo capacity modules. Well, at some point those might be modular, that you can take them out and drop something else in. So you could, in theory, turn this into, I don't know, like an electronics warfare type ship. Drop a module in there that does that and different stuff. So there's potential here. But yeah, if that's your focus, I'm playing pretty much solo and I want to run cargo and make money that way, this would probably be the one I'd look at, the Caterpillar. Retaliator, bomber and base. Don't mess with them. Don't touch them for now. Good concepts, but these ships were one of the first big multi-crew ships, or I think it was the first big multi-crew ship in. I think the Cutlass might have been the first multi-crew ship in front of this. This ship needs some R&R. Not R&R, TNC. TLC? Tender loving care, yeah, it needs some TLC. It shows that it was one of the first ones created, and it needs an overhaul. It needs an update. It doesn't do anything very well right now, and in fact, in some cases, it's outright broken. Like last time I took it out, which was admittedly like 2 big patches ago, so 6-8 months ago, it wouldn't even fly in atmosphere. You had to toggle the landing gear down if you wanted to go up and use your VTOLs to fly up. You could not fly forward without falling in atmosphere. It didn't have enough lift to do it. So this ship's easy pass. Scythe, another easy pass. There was a time when the Scythe and the Glaive were some of the best fighters in game. That time is long since past. And what you're doing is you're going to pay a whole lot, I think $270 for a Scythe, somewhere in there, for a fighter that's not a very good fighter right now. As they've slowed down combat, as they've added in the gimbal assist, as tracking for non-gimbaled weapons has become a little more difficult, these things have just become weaker and weaker, and the cost just isn't there. The justification for the cost just is not there. There's so many better options in terms of fighters overall. Idris's, the big dog that everyone gets excited about, which is actually not all that big compared to, we'll see, the Javelin and some of the other ones down the line. If you want to have a ship that's going to focus on attacking other capital ships, this might be the one to go. You got the big railgun down the center. I think that's one of the options. I know they sold like a special buck for the front of it. They can change it out. It's going to be hard hitting. It's going to require a fairly large crew. It's going to should be a reliable but expensive ship to run. Your frigate size of that class, whereas like the Javelin is destroyer size, then obviously the Bengal carrier is aircraft carrier size. So it's, as large ships go, it's actually kind of small, even though it's massive, if that makes sense. But it's going to be really expensive. I think these are like $1,700, and they sell them in very limited amounts. So most people don't even bother considering, just way too expensive. P-52, pass. It's a fine ship, but it's a snub fighter. It doesn't have its own quantum drive and everything. So if you have one because you own a Connie that it docks into or whatever, great. They're fun to play around with. There's really no reason, in my opinion, to buy one standalone. They don't do anything too well. So Mustangs, since they're reworked, they're pretty good. All the different variants have a nice little flavor to them, depending on what the back is. The one with the cargo capacity, or not the cargo, I think it would be the Pathfinder, the Beta. It has the bed and stuff in the back, is the nice one and everything. They're fine. I think the one thing though is the Aurora, because you can just simply go out and grab a black box or a recovered package and drop it in there, and you can't do that with these. Really hinders it. And that's all because you climb the ladder and get directly into the seat. You don't climb the ladder and then end up in the area behind the seat. And that really prevents it. But they're not bad. They're fun to fly. They can also be annoying to destroy because they're weird profile and angles and stuff. You can put some well-aimed shots and they just pass through the ship because of its weird design. Redeemer, another pass. This used to be a community fan favorite. This was actually designed by community. It was then outsourced to a third-party company to build it and everything. Unfortunately, when they then brought it in game, they found out that all the metrics were wrong and people couldn't get in seats and the whole ship basically has to be redesigned, and it's kind of been on hold now for 4 years. There's talk that it's going to come back as more of a focus on a gunship and less of a focus on a dropship. In fact, I'm noticing here they've updated this. This used to be gunship / dropship or dropship in general. This could be a surprise at CitizenCon. If they really wanted to wow people might not like the new design, but until we actually know where they're taking the Redeemer, you kind of got to just wait, in my opinion. Gladius. Solid, great ships. These used to be the praise I heaped on the Arrow earlier. These used to be the ship that got that praise. The only thing is the Arrow does, I think, pretty much everything the Gladius does a little bit better. The Gladius technically is a little more tanky, and I think on paper can carry more DPS, but I find the Arrow's DPS to be a little more consistent due to the way its weapons are loaded out. The Arrow is also a little more maneuverable and nimble. It's also cheaper. The Arrow is $70 or $75, whereas this thing's like $90 for the base model. But if you have a Gladius, they're good. They're fun ships to fly around, and every time they go on loaner, I like to take one out and enjoy it for quite a bit. They're good to have, but I clearly lean more towards the Arrow overall. The Karuto Owl, whatever the heck this thing is, another pass, unless you're just looking to have a fancy, unique ship in your fleet that not a whole lot of people have, you can pass on this thing. It's maneuverable in terms of its lateral and vertical agility. It's not super fast top end, but it's not slow. It's right in there with the average ones. Where this thing really lacks is firepower. It only has 2 hard points. you're not going to be killing anybody with it. Now, people are going to have a tough time killing you also. So if you just want to harass and annoy people, that could kind of be the thing. But it's quite expensive. I want to say this is like $250, somewhere in there, for a scout craft, essentially. Not my thing. Merchant Man. Back when I said what I did about the Caterpillar, I'm sure some people got mad and were like, dude, the Merchant Man, the Merchant Man. We'll get there. The Merchant Man, by all accounts, is going to be an awesome ship. It's going to have a lot of cargo capacity. Let's see. Do we see? Where is it down here? If this number is accurate, 3,584. Don't quote me on all of this. The trade type stuff's not my big thing. I think the big appeal for the Merchantman is basically you're going to have shops within the ship. So you can fly out somewhere, land, basically let people come onto your ship, and there'll be terminals right there on the ship that they can do trades with, right? So you can basically run, you can be a traveling, I was going to say like a food truck, but more like the Snap-on trucks and stuff that sell wrenches and stuff. They drive out around, and so that you're going to be able to do that with the Merchantman. And I think that's real appealing to a lot of people. The reason I lean towards the Caterpillar for that solo person is the Merchantman, I think, is going to be more of a priority target. So you're going to probably want to have some escorts. You're going to be wanting to an organization that's going to have a focus on trade to have a Merchantman. The Merchantman's also a lot more expensive. I don't remember what it costs. I want to say it's like $800 than the Caterpillar is. So for that reason, I lean more towards the Caterpillar. 890 jump. This is all form over function, which is completely opposite of what I look for. It's an impressive ship. It's kind of crazy the amount of detail and everything they've put into it, but I have no interest in it. What it costs and everything, it just doesn't do it for me. Thanks, backup. The Carrack, we've already basically hit it. For me, this is probably going to be my go-to main ship overall, barring disappointment when it comes out. But I love the fact that it has medical bay. I love the fact that it has all the navigation stuff. It's going to be able to do exploration and everything. I'm really excited for this ship. It is pricey for somewhere in there, a little over $400. But I'm hoping this is going to be my Serenity. If you get the reference. Hope most people will get that reference. But I think that's what this ship's going to be for me, my everyday use type larger ship overall. Herald, for now, pass. Whenever they figure out how they're going to do data and espionage and all that stuff, the Herald could be a very important ship to have. But for now, none of that is implemented. We don't know how it's going to be implemented. We don't know how useful it's going to be and everything. And this is kind of a one-trick pony for running that stuff. So it's kind of an easy pass. The whole series. So you got the Caterpillar, you have the Merchantman, and then you have the hulls. The whole series out of all of them, to me, I think this is the one where you're going to need other people around. You have cargo on the actual outside of the ship. You can see here on the Hull E, the actual cargo containers are held outside the ship. I think they want to try and project force fields over that and everything, but you're just going to be a massive target for anybody that wants to harass traders, especially in the D and the E when you start running some major cargo. I think the risk of losing your entire haul, the entire haul of cargo you're running in your hull, seems massive to me. This one you're going to need proactive escorts with, really protecting you. And for that reason alone, like I said, with the Caterpillar, it depends. Like if you know you're part of a big organization and that's going to be your primary focus, you guys are going to be the movers in the universe. You're going to be taking the stuff from point A to point B, and you got to move the most cargo possible. Well, then there's reason to look at the whole series, but there's a lot of reasons to be concerned around it. We're getting there. We're getting there. The Orion. I think the Orion, for someone that wants to be the heart of the manufacturing side of an organization, if you want to invest big money, the Orion, when he comes out, he's probably going to be an absolute monster. I think this thing is going to make money by the boatloads. If you look at what you can already do with the Prospector on a good turnaround, then you put that on the scale of the Orion, where it's going to be able to be mining 6, 8, 10 things at one time, processing, refining everything inside of it and stuff. This thing's just going to produce credits, in my opinion. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, that might not come to fruition. But yeah, if you're looking to be on that side of the gameplay and you want to invest more into a larger ship, the Orion is going to be a monster, I think. The Reclaimer, pretty much everything I just said about the Orion, except instead of mining, we're talking salvage. Depending on how profitable salvage comes, and I think salvage is slated for like 4.0, which is Q2 of next year. The Reclaimer is going to be a monster at tearing ships apart and collecting salvage, and yeah, could be a really good money-making ship also, but it's a fairly expensive ship to get into. Javelin. The Javelin makes the Idris look small and pathetic. It really does. This is going to be one of those super rare ships, not quite as rare as the Bengal Carrier, but a whole heck of a lot more rare than the Idris is, and more rare than the Kraken is. This thing, boy, if you can get your hands on one of them and you spend that money, hats off to you, because it's going to be an impressive, terrifying ship to behold in-game. The Vanguard series. Oh man, how do we just go into this one? I love the Vanguards. Their price is tough to eat. $250 for the entry level one. The Harbinger's like $275. That's the Harbinger, $275. Sentinel's like $280, and I think this one's like $265. They are all around solid ships. And if you're okay with the price tag, you can buy a Vanguard. You can take it out every single day you log into the game. You're never going to really feel that you're at a major disadvantage, but you're also probably not going to feel that you're at a major advantage. They're just kind of tried and true, okay ships. They're good for you plus one friend and maybe two friends. And yeah, they're great money makers. If you want to run missions, they got really good hydrogen fuel tanks. They got, now with the new loadouts, you can basically load them out with pure lasers. And you can just go out and farm credits with these things like mad. I love the ships, but that price tag is hard to justify for what they have. There's also now the Banu Defender, which we'll talk about probably it'll definitely be in the next video, which does a lot of the same things at a little bit less of a price tag, and it's just a little more fancy. So, the Reliance series of ships. These are a pass unless you want something that's just unique that is fairly cheap. I think these things are like $45, $50 depending on the different variants. Unfortunately, they do nothing well. They don't do anything well at all. They don't do combat, they don't do exploration, they don't do cargo, they don't do anything really well. The only thing they have going for them is they're unique. They're interesting because of that. It's odd flying around with a ship where more of the ships above and below you than to your left and right, or even behind. That's kind of strange. And you don't see a whole lot of them out there. So if you just want to have something that people like see, if I'm like, oh, look, it's a Reliant. That's kind of silly. That type of thing, maybe you look at them for that purpose. Genesis Starliner. I don't get it. This might be a really cool ship. It sounds like it's going to be a big ship. I do not look at Star Citizen and say, you know what I want to do? I want to fly a commercial airliner in Star Citizen. I don't see the appeal. I don't understand why people want this. I don't even understand who's going to be getting into one of these things. Is there going to be NPCs waiting by the hundreds that want to go from Port Olisar to Levski? That would be a really short flight. Port Olisar to Lorville. I mean, that's still a pretty short flight overall, and all things considered, Star Citizen. I don't get it. I don't understand where this ship fits in. Lastly, the Glaive, and we've already kind of covered this when we talked about the Scythe. The Glaive is a hard pass. $350. What used to be, in my opinion, the strongest fighter in the game, its time has long passed, its balance has changed to the point where it's a hard fighter to even be okay with. There was a time when this thing would one-shot Cutlass. I think you could one-shot Connies too, but you would regularly one-shot Cutlasses. You come around, do one full salvo, and that Cutlass would just blow apart. Those days have passed. They've reduced the damage. Well, they've improved the tankiness of ships and everything, and improved shields. And this thing, the main flaw it has is nothing can be gimbaled. And right now, gimbals are just so strong, and the lead pip indicators are so bad for when you're not gimbaled that it's hard to use this ship. And at that price tag, just can't recommend it. The one thing I can say, and it's kind of what happened with mine, is so it's going to be a very rare ship. If you see one and say you're going to buy a Carrack that's going to cost you a little over $400 or whatever, you could buy one of these, then scrap it for cash, in-game credits in the store, then buy your Carrack with it. And then say in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, if the glaive becomes really strong, you'll have that buyback option under your account still, as long as those stay in, that you can always go back and rebuy it. That could be one way to basically tie a rare ship to your account for later on. That might be the only reason to really do it. Okay, we're about halfway through. We'll pick up after this one, but let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm sure some people really love the Starliner, and I'd love to see a discussion. Why do you like the ships you like? Why it's a fun, interesting conversation to have. Until next time, this has been Power. Thanks for watching.